My presentation is on the grammatical relations and constituent order in Kenyang, a Niger-Congo language spoken in the southwest region of Cameroon. Kenyang is SVO. However, exigencies of information structure can allow Kenyan speakers to generate constructions with otherwise word order, such as OSV in sentences 2, 3, and 4, and SOV in sentence 5 from the unmarked word order in 1. 10 subjects in this language, both overt and null, obligatorily precede the subject marker. The subject marker hosts the 5 features of the preceding subjects, a temporal feature, and controls agreement with the latter as indicated in 6, which is the corresponding null subject construction of sentence 1. We'll proceed with an examination of word order of finite clauses with ver, the corresponding English expression for say. While the above linearization of word order describes the unmarked clausal architecture of typical finite clauses in Kenya, the corresponding finite clauses with the verb ver violate such linearization procedure. In fact, the permissible word order of ver constructions is S, V, SM, V, and O, as indicated in 7 and 8, whereby the first S is optional, followed by the second S, a verb, a subject marker, another verb, an object. The ver expression subcategorizes for a pronominal element only in subject position. Nominal subjects must co-occur with the pronominal elements as indicated in 7 and 8 for the constructions to be interpretable. Failure to do so accounts for the ungrammaticality of 9 and 10, which are the corresponding uninterpretable structures of sentences 7 and 8, respectively. In this matrix position, the lexical subject is topic and more emphatic, while the pronominal element simply reinforces this discussed notion. The temporal interpretation of the matrix verb is spelled out by default in the absence of a subject marker. Ver subcategorizes for plus human subjects only. The presentation will continue with an examination of the relationship between the expression ver and other clausal constituents in Kenya. Our first item of interest here will be the relationship between ver and temporal constituents. Temporal interpretation in Kenya is denoted by aspect, phonologically by tone, and is amplified lexically by aspectual adverbs. The tone-bearing unit is the subject marker. The clause containing ver does not carry overt temporal features to translate the time frame of the event in the construction. That is, the expression ver can never co-occur with a subject marker, which in turn hosts aspectual features in the language. In consequence, temporal interpretation is spelled out by default in clauses with the expression ver. This accounts for the ungrammaticality of 11, contrary to sentence 12 below. Let's proceed with the relationship between the expression ver and little pro. We realize in this language that the pro generated from constructions with ver patterns semantically different from otherwise constructions with the unmarked word order of Kenya. The lack of overt morphosyntactic features on ver, in particular 5 features and temporal features, implies a spell out of such features by default and thereby attributing pro by default in finite clauses with ver as indicated in 13, the null subject counterpart of sentence 8. The missing subject in 13 can refer to anyone including the first, second, and third person, singular and plural. It has a universal or generic interpretation. What about the relationship between ver and negation in Kenya? We notice in this language that the unmarked pattern of constructions with negation is S, SM, neg, V, and O. In particular, negation of the matrix verb clause with ver having the clausal architecture S, S, V, SM, V, and O results to ungrammaticality as in 14. In contrast, the negation of the verb in the embedded clause encodes interpretability as indicated in 15 below. We'll proceed with the examination of the expression ver and information structure. In this section, we shall be examining clauses containing focus expressions, topicalized expressions, and relative markers, respectively. To begin with, we note that the subject of the matrix clause containing ver can never be focalized, topicalized, or relativized because it lacks a subject marker. The subjects of the embedded clause can be topicalized, focalized, or relativized only if the subject markers are preceded by a pro or an overt nominal or pronominal element. In this connection, the construction in 14 involving focalization will be generated as 19. Our next focus will be the relationship between ver and WH expressions. Ver in Kenyang can also subcategorize for WH expressions, and in such context, the question constituent obligatorily follows the ver as in the following. In sentence 20, we realize that ver 8 followed by ye, which is roughly equivalent to what in English. Similarly, in sentence 21, ver is accompanied by a, roughly equivalent to the WH expression who in English. To conclude our presentation, we note that Kenyang allows 2 types of pro in its finite clauses. Each is constrained by different morphosyntax and semantics. The unmarked little pro is subcategorized by the unmarked word order SVO in Kenya, while the generic pro subcategorizes for the S, S, V, S, VO linear order, respectively. In addition, in virtue of carrying overt morphosyntactic features comprising 5 features and a temporal feature, the unmarked little pro must have this feature spelled out in overt syntax. The lack of such features in clauses with generic pro allows for their spell out by default in overt syntax. Further, unmarked little pro has specificity in its semantics, as it refers to an identified entity. The lack of such specificity in interpretation allows generic pro to be associated with any type of entity. Thanks for your kind attention.